Now, the situation in Ukraine, we have talked about this several times beforehand, but you've just finished a call from a member of the team in Kyiv. What is the latest, Matthew?
Yes, yeah. I literally minutes ago got off the phone and on Telegram, literally the Telegram messenger app, and one of our co-workers who is actually Russian Ukrainian, but lives outside the country and oversees the ministry in that whole region. He's there right now and just sent me some video and said, please pray. Air raid sirens going off right now, drones overhead, and they are ducking down in their apartment buildings, watching, praying, and waiting. So literally, as we speak, this is going on right now. And the sad reality is, when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, we hear about this every day. Yeah. That doesn't change anything. That doesn't change anything at all. This needs to stop. I feel like the persistent widow in Luke 18, give us justice, make it stop. Yeah. Pray now, please, New Zealand.
And pray that it would not be normal. And you and I have talked beforehand about the generation of young people in particular growing up in Ukraine. They haven't known a situation different than war, and for a lot of them, they've lost family members. They know the stress and the trauma of the air raid sirens. Peace for the nation, and for war and for air raid sirens to no longer be their normal.
Absolutely. And, I will tell you that the nice thing is that they know we're praying for them. I mean, they tell their people, Kiwis, Aussies, Americans, others are praying for you, others from all around the world, because we pass it on. The conversations are immediate, and there is something in that. And so our prayers, of course, are powerful and effective. Yeah. And our community across the nations and across the world is effective. They do appreciate it. They send their thanks and their love. They're just like us, they're men and women, boys and girls, just like us.
And honestly, Ukraine, to some extent, still in the news, in the Western media, but FEBC specialises in going to those tough places that don't often make the headlines. And you've been there for some time. The FE part of FEBC, the Far East part of it, this is an area that we're wanting to focus in on today, in particular, Southeast Asia. This is in some ways the core, the heart of your ministry, not taking away from anything you're doing in other parts of the world, but this is sort of where it all began, right?
Yes, it is. It all began in China and quickly around that whole region, Southeast Asia. The interesting thing about this is that while we broadcast in over 155 different languages, but about 50 countries. That means there's a core language, of course. In Thailand it's Thai, and Vietnam it's Vietnamese. But of course, what is always interesting is that all of these countries, all of them, have dozens, sometimes hundreds of other languages that are spoken by large portions of the minority portions of the population. And so New Zealand sponsors work across Southeast Asia in a particular ministry that broadcasts in 22 minority ethnic languages, which covers Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and the southern portion of China. Yeah. So not in the main big languages, but in minority languages of people who are often persecuted, marginalized, surveilled by the government, and restricted by local authorities. Well, so that's extensive.
It is, and even in those 5 areas that you mentioned, significant challenges there. But to break that down and say, hey, let's target specific people groups, and it is often those minority groups, those that don't speak the main language of the country. Those are the ones that are persecuted. Those are the ones that don't get access to resources and information and their own radio channels, right?
Yes, often. And so even though we do broadcast terrestrial, so in some of those cases it'll be shortwave, some of them it'll be FM, but most of the minority ones, they get most of their programming on Facebook Live and on some apps, some locally used apps. And so just had a wonderful story from last month, again, very, very fresh, very, very hot, of a guy in one of those countries, and we're not supposed to say, but in one of those countries who heard the broadcast, heard the gospel, heard the good news of Jesus for the very first time on an online Facebook Live broadcast, which of course then stays there and becomes a repeatable podcast type program for forever.
That is amazing. So hearing the gospel in their own language, and there's not, I mean, we're not naming the country, but this isn't the place where you can put missionary on your visa application. You know, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities to hear the gospel in this particular part of the world. What was their response to hearing the message?
It's rather nice. So I can tell you that he's from the Kim Mun people group, which is a reasonably large people group in the area, and his response. This is just so glorious. I mean, the thing is, every response, every warm, positive response, orienting someone's heart to Jesus is good. But this one really stands out. We'll call this guy Kim. He heard the gospel on the radio. He's from a tribal religious background, so animism, appeasing the spirits, worried about the moon, the sun, the rivers, the rocks, this kind of stuff, doing all sorts of witchcraft, basically. He heard the gospel, was amazed, captivated by this almighty God, creator, and Jesus, who rescues us from our sin, of course, the most glorious news. And so he'd never heard it before. So he determined, without any other plan, he set out to find the broadcaster. Have you ever had anyone come looking for you, Andrew?
Well, we have, this guy, but not necessarily in a good way. This is an amazing story. And how would they know where to go? I suppose radio. Where do you where does that come from? Particularly if it's an internet radio station, how would he know where to travel to?
Exactly. So he had no plan. He set out and he determined to ask Christians. I'll find Christians and I'll just keep asking, where is the FEBC station? Where is the broadcaster? And so he just set out. Well, he traveled, I don't know what mode or anything, but he traveled for 7 days.
Wow.
Not knowing how long it was going to go on, and was eventually introduced and found our station, found the fountainhead of this glorious message that he'd heard for the first time. So then, of course, the story, this is straight out of Acts, and, we've got to be encouraged. This is still happening today. He found the broadcaster, heard the gospel and told them his story and found out as much as he could. And before he did anything else, he said, come back to my town, come back to my family.
Wow.
So they did, and that's what they do. Our guys, I know them personally, and they love that. They do travel in the region. They set off on motorbikes with packs full of Bibles and resources and go and interview people across borders and through the valleys and the hills. And the broadcaster went back with Kim, back to his village in his town. The guy, Kim, gathered his family, his extended family, and he says 3 other families from the village, and said, okay, tell us all. So beautifully, the broadcaster shared the whole gospel, led the whole group to salvation, everybody to this group. I mean, they're a family group and an extended group in a small town in Southeast Asia, and they all gave their hearts to the Lord, their lives to the Lord. They're now devoted listeners, Andrew.
And there's a church planted in that village now.
That is a new church.
Yeah, an absolutely amazing story, and fantastic that you were able to capture this, as you say, happening just last month in a place that we can't even talk about on the radio. But because of the work that you do, because of the work that the FEBC team are doing in Ukraine and Southeast Asia and many different parts of the world, these amazing stories are happening, and you and I both know that this is tip of the iceberg. These are the stories we hear about. I'm sure it's happening a lot more than what we hear, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we must be encouraged. These are tough times in many other ways, but the gates of hell will not prevail. They will not prevail. And this is good. This is good news about the good news, and we can be encouraged.
Hey, thank you for your word of encouragement today. febc.nz, of course, for more information about the work that God is doing through your ministry. Thanks so much for being on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.